Hello all. Okay, I am here in my Libro.fm winnings. Libro.fm. Basically, I won the Libro.fm Summer Reading Challenge, which gave me 12 or a year's worth of audiobook credits, this cool t-shirt, and there is a great Jane Mount art print up there, but I don't want to move it. So that is irrelevant. Basically, I've been using Libro.fm as my audiobook purchaser of choice. So this isn't a Libro.fm ad, I just thought the t-shirt was fitting. Really, I just want to talk to you about what I have been listening to lately. So I've gotten into audiobooks pretty hard the last couple of years. Still read tons and tons in print, but I work a desk job now, and it just helps me keep my stress levels down, helps me feel focused, helps me feel like I'm being productive both at work and in my own life because I have a lot of reading goals, keeps me from being as distracted. So I don't actually get as much listened to now as I used to. I used to listen to a whole lot more, but I switched into a role that takes a little bit more thought. So I take that into account. I'm obviously there to work. But I also walk around Chicago a lot. I listen while I'm getting ready. So I've started listening a lot more. And this is a hard switch for me because I used to only really like print. I tried audiobooks. It's not that I was against audio or I judged audio. It's just that my brain didn't like to sit there like that. And often it boiled down to I could read something much quicker than someone could read to me. And when I was in high school and whatnot, before audiobook have developed to the point they are today, which is night and day, and a lot of people talk about that, but there's a lot of people in the conversation that aren't taking that into account. So I used to work at my public library, and I was having to explain to patrons in like 2009 and later that we were no longer purchasing books on tape. And I'm not using that as like a Kleenex term. We had books on CD, and at the time we had a little bit of overdrive, but I not, and honestly I can't remember when this anecdote, if it was high school or college. So if it was high school, we didn't even have overdrive, and if it was college, we had some selection, but it was a small public library in Indiana, so at the time the selection honestly on overdrive wasn't as good at the start, but it's increased significantly. But regardless, they wanted the actual tape. So this is a time when you could find a CD player at any, garage sale because people were getting rid of their boom boxes, but these people still wanted a book on tape, and I had to explain to them that that wasn't happening. So in the past decade to 15 years, which is crazy to think about, we've gone from books on tape and books on CD to where we are now with these digital audiobooks. And I remember trying, even back when I was at the library, the playaways, which you still see, I still see them at the Chicago Public Library sometimes. I've never actually seen someone using a playaway in my day-to-day life, but for those who don't know, they're the little devices that just carry one digital audiobook. And when I was at the library, I was actually the tester of the playaway because at the time I was the resident youth. So I loved it in the sense that I was basically allowed to just listen to an audiobook while I was shelving. And so I picked out Wicked first because I'd already read it. I was like, okay, this is something I'm at least familiar with. I'm not gonna have to listen and worry about missing something. And I hated it because when you sped it up, it still sounded weird to me. So I want to give major props to the sound design in these books, where now I can speed them up to 1.5 to 2% depending on the narrator, and it still sounds like a normal cadence to me, but it's quick enough. Clearly, I'm also a very fast talker. I do tend to mumble, so I'd be awful at narrating audiobooks, but my brain just couldn't go that slow, and it really bothered me. So it's night and day. That being said, when I first started audiobooks, I know you're getting my whole audiobook history. I promise every time I talk about what I've been listening to lately, it will not be this. But when I first started listening, I got in via comedy nonfiction. So your Amy Poehler, your Tina Fey book. I think Tina Fey book may have been one of the first I listened to on audio, especially because then you had this individual that you are used to reading it to you. I actually, if it's someone I'm familiar with and they're not reading their own audiobook, it's jarring to me. So anyway, so that's how I kind of started, and since then I've been able to get into the full gamut of audio, fiction, things like that. Now there have been times things I've wanted to read are available on audio, and I wait for the physical copy. An example would be like this year's book, Lanny. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the author. That is a very stylized book. The format is very stylized, and I had gotten wind of that before I read it. So like when I added it to my TBR. So I was like, I'm not listening to this on audio, I need to read it. I was very hesitant to listen to The Poet X on audio because I knew it was poetry, and I knew that there would be things laid out on the page in a certain way. That one did not disappoint. That was gorgeous in audio. So anyway, now that you've gotten my whole like audio history, I just want to talk to you about what I've read recently or listened to recently. I'm going to go back a little further than the past week just because I've listened to some really interesting things that I want to mention. So I guess the first one, and I forgot to look up authors because I'm the worst. So let me pull up some info. And of course, I'm not logged in. Okay, so the first one is Trick Mirror by Tolentino. Tolentino? Again, I apologize if I butcher names. I promise I'm going to do my research and get better. That's an empty promise. Okay, so Trick Mirror has been getting a lot of buzz. It is an essay collection, and sometimes I'm hesitant about essay collections where I don't know the author off the bat. So I'm like, okay, why am I reading about this person's perceptions of whatever? But this has been getting a lot of buzz. So I was like, I need to try it. I'm gonna listen to it. And it was great. And it reminded me why I should not be like, oh, why do I want to listen to this if I don't know the author and love the buzz? Because we have all of these writers that haven't been given the platform or haven't had access to the platform that have really great ideas, and essays are great. I forget how much I love essays. So this is, kind of billed as like a feminist essay collection, which it definitely is, but it takes a look at pop culture. So my sweet spot is definitely feminist essay collections that converge with pop culture. So like Bad Feminist is one of my favorites. I listened to another book earlier this summer, I like to watch, which is essays, and it's not necessarily feminist, but it's just like essays and cultural criticism around television. So I really, really enjoyed this. Obviously I listened to it, so I'm trying to remember like some of the standout moments for me. She did talk about like her experience on a reality show from when she was younger, like the mid 2000s. That was a great essay, but it wasn't my favorite. Oh, the scammers. So she like goes through like some of the scam culture and this idea of identity on the internet. So she has an internet identity exploration essay early in the collection, and then later she talks about these kind of scammers that have defined the last couple of years. So she talks about your Billy McFarlands. I don't think she talks about the Anna whatever her face case, but she talks about just like this culture of scamming and fakeness and how it kind of comments on our current sociological, societal atmosphere. And I am endlessly fascinated by things like that. I watched both of, the Fyre Fest documentaries. I think they both have questionable ethics that I would like to mention. The Hulu doc paid Billy McFarland major money to appear and to tell his story. And the Netflix documentary was paid for or produced by the marketing company that was behind Fyre Fest. So whether you believe them or not, like, it felt like a PR move in that, we weren't really... Regardless, I watched both of them just to kind of see. I did watch the Netflix one and the Hulu one before I knew. So because I watched them right away. So I didn't know Billy McFarland was appearing in the Hulu one. And then I saw it and I had to wonder, I was like, did he get paid? And I found out yes. And then two, I didn't know the producers behind the Netflix one. So I found that kind of shady. Anyway, so Trick Mirror, definitely great. The cover is very reminiscent, I feel like, and plays on like your kind of first wave feminist thought. It looks very 60s, 70s, so it's got that like orange cover. Hopefully I will figure out how to link it up here. If not, I'll get there, but look at the cover. So that was great. And if you, essays I feel like are very good introductory listens because they're short little clips, but they're really packed and meaty. Okay, so the second one I've listened to recently is The Feather Thief. By Kirk Johnson. So this one has gotten a lot of buzz recently because it's part of this true crime phenomenon, but it doesn't involve murder. So it is a young man that's robbing a natural history museum in Britain, or that robs a natural history museum in Britain, and he steals feathers for fishing to help pay for his, they say it's to help pay for his flute, but they really never talk about, you know, what he kind of does with the money. But they do talk about this obsession, this specific culture, and I had a lot of thoughts about this. On one hand, it wasn't quite as engaging in the sense that I was under the impression that it was like multiple, like a kind of like conspiracy ring of theft, but it did kind of illuminate some entitlement and like masculine entitlement, not overarching, but for this individual. He clearly believed he did nothing wrong. His parents came and kind of swooped in to save him, which is a parental instinct. I get it. I will tell you that if I were ever, you know, arrested abroad for robbing a natural history museum, my parents would leave me there. And they'd be right too. They'd probably start looking for clones because that's the probably worst thing I could think of, but yeah, I just don't get it. So what really bothered me, and spoilers kind of, my mom spent 40 years teaching special education in a middle school, and this man basically, I don't want to, this is just my opinion based on the text, because the text does kind of, it tries not to judge, I feel, to a certain extent, but it does toward the end. It's kind of like, it leads you to feel like he fakes autism to get off of this. And I think he's faking. I think he faked autism to get off on a major international charge. I think it's some BS. I think it's incredibly problematic, and I don't like it. So I think that the book I went into as kind of like this true crime idea, and I came out of it thinking about that scammer's essay in Trick Mirror, because it just felt like it was a larger, it could be a commentary on the larger societal moment, but it never did that. So it was trying to solve this mystery, especially like they hadn't recovered all of the birds. And they're like, where are the rest of the birds? So I kind of wish it had explored the societal aspect a little bit more, or if it had gone in, it talked about the microfishing community, and it kind of talked about the distrust this guy, the author, got while trying to research this case at a convention, but I never really felt enveloped in that world. So I would have liked to go deeper on one aspect, or like this kid's life, the pressures. I know that there's a lot of pressure in these higher music communities. At the same time, going back, I don't want to judge this kid's, well, he's not a kid, he's a man, a grown-ass man, excuse my French, because he does have these very obsessive, he's clearly been very obsessed with things, and that is also, you know, I'm not here to diagnose, and I don't disclose my mother's history as saying I know what I'm talking about. Because that's not the case. I'm not the educator, and I can't diagnose someone from over. I disclose that for saying that I've been around these conversations, and it was extra offensive to me, to the idea of faking something like that. Then again, I cannot say he's faking definitively, because there are these markers that maybe it was a fascinating kind of study. I don't know. I don't know where I left that book. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. The next book I listened to, because I was on kind of another heavy nonfiction. We've had a lot of really great nonfiction recently. I listened to Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab, which is the second in her middle grade series. The first one is City of Ghosts, and it's set in Edinburgh, I believe. I've got it on this shelf somewhere. I just don't want to waste your time. So I'll waste your time babbling about it instead. Anyway, so this one is set in Paris, and it talks about the catacombs a bit. I don't want to spoil anything because it's a brand new release. It's great. I love anything Victoria Schwab writes. I will say it didn't delve into the historical aspects of Paris that I was hoping for, but I'm going in with the years of reading about things, and what I would pick for the ghostly, explorations of Paris are much different. Additionally, you don't want to go with something too scary for middle grade. So you want to scare them, and there is a capacity for fear. We've all mostly read, scary stories to tell in the dark. Was that the title? It's got a movie coming out, so I should really know. I feel like we all have that image burned in our brain. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Or there was that one beginner reader that everyone always confuses, that girl with the ribbon story having come from Scary Stories, and it's really from that beginning reader, which is still around. I've sold that to people. So this series follows Cassidy Blake. Her parents are the hosts of this in development ghost show, where her father's the historian and her mom is the believer, and so they're going around these cities around the world to kind of talk about the ghostly stories of these places, which I would love to watch, especially since as a scaredy cat, you've got your historical. It seems like the father's meant to kind of ground things and provide the historical aspect, but also maybe the what's the word I'm looking for? Not non-believer, but ground a little bit, make you think, oh, is this real? I would love to watch the show, but unbeknownst to them, Cassidy has almost drowned and is saved by who has become her best friend Jacob. So she talks about her best friend Jacob to her parents, and her parents just assume she has an imaginary friend. They kind of they don't, but Jacob is there and is a ghost. So this is their second adventure, and they are in Paris. We get callbacks to the first. I'm very excited about this series. I'm really excited to see where they go next, because I feel like I'm getting more History Channel, of my childhood vibes from this than I'm getting from the History Channel right now. And it's just a whole lot of fun. So definitely pick up Tunnel of Bones, regardless of whether you usually read middle grade or not. It's just a fun series. It's a quick read. It was a quick listen. I listened to it in a morning. It was available on Hoopla, because most of my listening either comes from Libro.fm or the library, which I use. Overdrive. I have Libby. I've been using Overdrive for so long. I know it's the same company, but it's a hard switch for me. So Overdrive and Hoopla. I've tried RB Digital for people whose systems have RB Digital. I'm not a huge fan. I find a lot of listening problems with that. The app just doesn't function as well. So I will listen if there's something available there. But then again, I was trying to listen to a copy of I don't remember what the title was. Regardless, it felt like it skipped stuff, and I could not verify with the text, and they never responded to my question, I guess. So Tunnel of Bones was great. It was available on Hoopla. Your libraries may or may not have it. Last I checked, Chicago Public Library still didn't have it in their main catalog, but that could have changed. It seems like they're a little behind. It is fall. New releases are coming hot and heavy, so who knows. Okay, so the last one I am still currently listening to is She Said by Jodi Kantor and Twohey, who broke the Harvey Weinstein case. So I did not know that this was a book that was coming, so I downloaded it immediately. Luckily, I had a new Libro.fm credit because I'm hoarding the others that I had posted the day before that I'd planned to use on a different book, but this one took precedence. So I should have been able to finish this in a morning, and it's taken me 3 to 4 days maybe to listen to it. I think I got it Tuesday, or regardless. It's taken me a while to listen to it, and it's not because it's not a good book, it's because of the contents of the book. So it's very heavy, there's a lot going on. We obviously know this story, but it's hard to listen to. It's hard to sit in that. So I'm taking my time with it, I'm not judging that. I've had a lot of problems personally because it reveals a lot about lawyer Lisa Bloom, and this seems so silly and stupid, but I'm having problems with that. When I was in college, Lisa Bloom was kind of the first of our modern, what I thought were our modern thinkers and talking on gender politics and things like that I was encountering as I was coming into my own feminist thought. And I've drifted from her a lot over the years, and I never considered her one of my beacons of feminist thought, but I was like, oh, here's someone doing work for women in the world right now. I bought and read her book when I was in college, when I had no money to spend on books, and I have felt so gross and betrayed by everything that has been revealed. I don't really have words for it. I think she's being disingenuous and to reference her previous apology in this instance, as she seems to have done. I've unfollowed her on Twitter. Just don't feel heavy enough. It doesn't feel like a large enough apology, and she keeps referencing being blinded by the potential of this deal where Weinstein would be transferring her book, or something about her book, and I was like, which book? Because if it was her first book, if it was Think, that's extra gross, and that makes it worse. That doesn't make it better. Anyway, so I've finished the part that covers the Weinstein allegations and the breaking of that case, which was crazy. If you liked Bad Blood and kind of the reporting of that, because it got crazy at the end as he was trying to break the story, and it gets crazy as they're trying to break this story, and it was scary to me. It was almost as thrillery as anything thrillery I've read, because you're reading about this very important man as these two women are trying to expose him, and even though they have this huge institution behind their back, you never know what lengths these people are willing to go to cover themselves, and clearly there's a lot of lengths. So it was scary. Even knowing how it ends, you're like, I was worried for these two women. I was tearing up at my desk at times because it was just so powerful. So right now it's gone past that, and it's kind of taking us through some of the bigger moments that have happened since then. So I'm currently on the Kavanaugh hearings. That's hard to sit through. So it's a great book. I highly recommend it. I think it's an important, moment culturally to talk about, to think about. It is interesting because it seems to be trying to talk about the Me Too movement as from a distance. There has been time that's passed enough since then that we can talk about kind of how it's impacted things, but it still feels so recent. I will say that they do credit the original starter of the Me Too movement, who was a woman of color, and I forget her name. Tarana Burke. So if I got that wrong, please forgive me. I just did a quick Google search. It sounded right in the moment. So she founded this movement in 2006. So it's been around for a long time. It's just kind of picked up steam. So I was very happy that they credited that, because you never know. Intersectional feminism, and that comes back to it too, like with the Lisa Bloom thing. Sorry, it's just such white women feminism, and I'm saying this as a white woman. I know that I have lots of privileges. I know it's very convoluted, but definitely, as I've grown into my feminism, consider intersectional feminism something to be fundamental. Like, it's not feminism if it's not intersectional. So one of the problems I had with the most recent Meg Wolitzer book as well, that could be a whole video. I didn't love that book. I don't know, maybe it succeeded in what it was trying to say in being a critique of this kind of first wave, second wave feminist thought. I hope it was a critique, because if it wasn't, it failed. Anyway, she said was great, you should listen to it. So quick wrap up of my babblings. I listened to Trick Mirror, The Feather Thief, Tunnel of Bones, and she said, I'll pop on to talk about these books that I'm listening to too. But these I would definitely all recommend. They're all great listens. They all are really illuminating on kind of cultural things. They're engaging. They're great to listen to at work, especially the nonfiction titles. So yeah, definitely pick them up and check them out. And I will see you all soon.